Like, I have friends who are kind of in the state where they want to be someone else, but they haven't taken many steps. And they ask me the same questions. They go like, how do I have friends, but all my friends want to drink every weekend. I have friends, but none of my friends like doing the stuff I do. And they go, how did you find creative people? How they look at my life, and these are really good friends of mine, childhood friends. They're like, how did you find them? And I'm like, bro, the second you use like the word like find, you're already losing. It's like you just become the person that you want to be, and like you'll attract them. And it's literally like this is that example. It's like it will just continue to happen more and more and more. And that's not to say that you don't do things that would be like finding activities. Like I always tell people, you want to make entrepreneurial friends, but you're too cool to show up for a business club, or you're too cool to show up for an entrepreneurial club. Like you want to make friends that share the same values with you, but you'll never go to church. You want to make like friends. And so like I do put myself in rooms that would be like finding those people, but I never think about it finding. Like you said, like losing expectations. You don't go to a place and expect something in return. You just be, and it will happen.
Totally. Yeah. I'm going to relate that to girls.
Yeah.
So I think I've had this understanding, and you need to become attractive to the person you want to attract, and then you have to find that person you want to attract. Because people will go, we can relate to friends too. People will go, where can I find a like-minded person? Let's relate it to a Christian. You go, I want to meet a like-minded guy who is strong in his faith and wants to work out. Let's say that's your criteria, I'm a friend. But first off, you need to be a good example of what you just described. You need to be in good shape and be at least taking it seriously, be on the road. And then with faith, you need to be taking it seriously and be on the road. And then you go to those places where you can find those two people. And a lot of people, they neglect one or the other. They'll just think that they'll happen upon it, and you might meet those people. But if you're not on the road, those people, they won't look down upon you, but they won't be like, oh, this is a like-minded person. Even though you look at them and, oh, you're perfect. From their point of view, you're just some guy.
Yeah.
You know? So I think, I totally think that's important. And honestly, I get down on myself a lot where I'm like, oh, I'm not doing like enough. And I understand that the harder I'm working, the more people will be able to like just see like the I don't know. It'll be like a different perspective. They'll be able to see me.
No, I mean, I think you brought up a good point about like kind of mixing the two, like becoming it and seeking, because like some good examples of this I can think of is like maybe like a YouTuber you like, or an author you like, or an entrepreneur you like hosts a meetup. Like if you go to that meetup and you meet your hero, but you're not doing anything exciting, all that is just going to be a moment where you said hi, you maybe got an autograph or a picture. And it's like that there you're neglecting the being. But it's like, all right, well, maybe you build up like a crazy podcast, or you build up a crazy YouTube channel, but then you never make the effort to meet anyone. And it's like you need to have both so you can end up in the rooms, but you also be someone who stands out. The other thing specifically with girls that I'm very hyper aware of is so many times I've had friends who get out of relationships and they just start like going in on their ex. They're like, oh, why'd you break up? Oh, because my ex was dishonest, or she wasn't fun, or she didn't have the same motivations as me, or she didn't like this. And all those things could be true, or they could not be true.
Yeah.
You're clearly a bias source, but that's not the point. They could be true or not true. The point is that as long as like you get out of a relationship and you just see the flaws in the other person, well, then you're just going to attract the same level of a person, because what you're saying is that you're saying it's not my fault that the relationship wasn't enjoyable, or that we broke up. You're saying it's all their flaws, and that I'm just hoping that I'm going to stumble upon someone better. But it's like, I think there is circumstances where you'll end up in an abusive relationship, or you end up in a place that you didn't deserve or belong to be. But I really believe that a strong majority of everyone's relationships are like what they attract. And so it's like there's things about my ex-girlfriend that weren't perfect. Like she wasn't a perfect person, but whenever I talk to people about it, I'm like, I always make sure to tell them like what I did wrong. I was like, oh, I obsessed over work and I didn't give her the time of day. Like I was obsessed with who she could be and I didn't appreciate her for who she was. Like I try to find my flaws because that's how you're gonna, if you want to find someone better or have a more successful relationship, then you yourself have to be that person. And it's so interesting. People just get out of, and it's not just like I'm using like the girl boy or relationship dynamic, but this goes for all relationships. It's like you and your boss, you and your friends, you and your people leave and they're like, oh, my friends suck. They're like, my friends aren't ambitious. They aren't adventurous. They aren't this. And it's like, bro, so what you're just hoping is that people with those qualities will stumble into your life rather than being like, oh, maybe I am not ambitious. Maybe I'm not adventurous. Maybe and I think that was really big for me. That helped me a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's something which I definitely have to continue keeping in mind because, for instance, Sam, I literally wrote down in August, I go, meet a mentor.
Yeah.
And Sam, the thing is with a mentor, he's a friend, but in a lot of ways, he has a lot more wisdom and experience in life and in social media. And social media is something I want to take seriously. So I would say he's a sort of mentor figure. And if I had met him and I hadn't made videos, I hadn't worked hard for years about editing, then he would have just gone, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
You know? And nothing would have happened from that encounter. But because I was that sort of person.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm perfect because I'm totally not. There's so much more I could have worked on, but I was proficient enough that when I met him, he took me seriously.
It's like, well, you have value to give. Like with the VFX thing, I mean, even like when I met you, it's like, if I truly sat down with you and met you and I knew your soul, I probably would have asked you to come on the podcast regardless of your like VFX and your career. But because of your VFX and your career is why I wanted to hang out with you in the first place. And then I get to know your soul and I'm like, oh, this guy fits in the soul well. He fits into my brand. He fits in my podcast. It's the same thing with Sam. It's like, as a Christian, I try more and more and more to see people for like, not their achievements, not their possessions, and not their money. But to say that like, it's not a phenomenon or to not acknowledge it, it's just not true. It's like, we always first look at people for how attractive they are, whether that's physical beauty, whether that's their like achievements or accomplishments. And I'm aware of that. So as a person, I'm trying to make myself attractive to other people, but I'm also aware of it in the sense that as a seeker, as someone who helps others and someone who looks into others, I'm trying to diminish that as little as possible. So for myself to others, I'm trying to make myself as attractive to other people, but for me to other people, I'm trying to be like, how do I limit that? How do I see people less and less and less for their achievements? How do I see people less and less for their money, less and less? And it just goes back to like what we talked about the other day is like, the more you help people and expect nothing, the more you'll be blessed. Even how ironic that sounds. And so, yeah. And with the mentors thing too, I used to always like, people would ask me if I had mentors and I didn't know how to answer the question because I was like, I mean, I have people I talk to for advice, but I don't have like an old dude who I sit down with and like gives me, and it's so funny because when you ask someone who's their hero, who's their inspirations, they're generally going to tell you someone who's famous, who they don't know. So they'll be like, oh, my hero, like for a long time I would say Kanye, or a long time I would say David Blaine, or like my people I look up to. And now something I'm trying to implement in my life is like when people ask about my inspirations or my heroes, I try to say my friends or people I know. And the reason why is that Kanye can make something that's really, really inspiring to me. But it's like, I only know him through his art. I don't know how he treats people. I don't know him on a daily basis. I don't know his living. And I can get to know him through interviews and podcasts and like have an idea of him. But it's like, when I recommend you to like meet my friend Chris, who's also accomplished great things, but he's like my best friend. I know how he treats you. I know who he is, who his character is, and it's like, yeah, he's my best friend, so I can call him. But he's also like, those are the people I'm trying to make my heroes and my inspirations now because I know every aspect of their life rather than just like a snapshot of the art or their accomplishment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely Yeah, I think idolizing people on the internet is a bad thing. I think you don't know who they are. I agree with you.
It's just like you're only seeing a snapshot, and it's not bad to like I definitely look up to people and I get inspiration, but I'm just idolizing is the word. You don't want to idolize anything. I mean, as a Christian, I would say you don't want to idolize anyone but Jesus, but even just as a general person, like idolizing is bad because especially people you don't know anything about their characteristics or who they are. But it happens too with people you do know. It's like sometimes you have a friend that you really admire and you're like, I remember before I got close to my friend Chris, who was CEO of Creator Camp, every time I met him, I would like met up with him to get coffee or I was aware of the fact that he owned the company Creator Camp and I really wanted to attend his events. So every time I would be with him, I would like refrain from showing my full personality because it was like, oh, this guy is like the gate holder if I'm going to get into this event. And like, I need to be kind of like, I don't know. I just need to put on this fake persona so that he'll like me more. Like I'm trying to be what I think he would like. Yeah. And then he didn't end up inviting me to the event. And I was just like, all right, F it, I'm going to be myself. And then we became best friends and I went to the next event. So it's like, it's the same thing with girls too. It's like how many times like you're texting a girl you like and your boys are like, wait 3 days to text her and like, you just got to wait 3 days and you got to like be mean, a little bit mean to her. And then people are trying to make this formula. It's like, even if that works, even if the girl's like, oh, this guy's not texting me and he's a little mean and I like him. He's like, what? Now she just likes a version of you that's not you. If you guys ended up in a relationship, you're just setting yourself up for failure because you made this girl like someone that's not you. And it's like, so I'm always just under the impression that you just got to be yourself and like, that's going to push certain people away and it's going to bring certain people closer to you. But I think that leads to the most joy and the best relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And building off of what you just said about kind of putting your true identity out instead of creating this false identity, which they think you like, and you're setting yourself up for failure because then you can't actually like uphold that personality, right? And it's not sustainable. I totally agree. And I have this rule that with your opinions, it's fine to have an opinion which will upset someone who you may not align with. Like, for instance, let's say your opinion is Jesus is God.
Yeah.
That's going to upset some people, but you're going to go, you know what? I don't align with your beliefs, right? But then let's say there are people who which you do align with your belief, who you align with, and who you feel that are people who you want to surround yourself with, but you have a belief which upsets them, then maybe you should kind of check yourself and go, my mom doesn't like this. My mom is someone who I care about and I value her opinion deeply. If my mom doesn't like this, then maybe I should check myself. Whereas if someone who is just against everything I believe in doesn't like it, then it's okay, that makes sense. Not that we should be enemies with that person, but I think it's more you should focus on people who you care about, people who you care about their opinions. If they're like, dude, check yourself, then I think you should check yourself. Oh, is that still going to work?
It should be fine. I'm just going to put it back. Yeah, what you're saying is like knowing whose opinions to value.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I set this up. No, I mean, that is such an important skill to know whose opinions to value. But it's also like I think with that being said though, is like whenever you get told that you don't do something right or properly, the natural reaction is like to be offended. And even as like someone who practices that skill, like, so a lot of like very wise Christian people have told me one of the best things they ever did was read one proverb with the corresponding day of the month, because there's 31 proverbs, and over and over and over again in Proverbs it says like accept discipline, accept correction. The wise will allow themselves to be corrected, will embrace discipline. And it's gone to the point where a lot of friendships, people are too scared to like criticize their friends or correct them. And it probably comes from a place of like when they first heard criticism or correction from their friends, it was like bullying or it was like something that wasn't true. So we build up this like defense, like we're immediately when we hear something, we feel like defended. But now I've gotten to this place where my friends are so like-minded and they're so much on the same wavelength that my friends correct me all the time. And almost always right when they first correct me, like I'll get a little anxious, but then I'll look at it and I almost always agree. And like a really good example of this is freaking jacket.
Is it? I think it'd be fine without it.
It is fine without it.
Okay. By the way, just for context, we have a very impressive and professional setup so that the camera is shaded and doesn't overheat.
Well, I made it better that way. Because now it's like
more distributed.
Yeah. What was I saying? Like a really good example of this, my friend Serafina, who you're gonna meet, who's been such a valuable friend to me. So I hope you guys hit it off. She like messaged me the other day and was like, sorry, I don't know if that's in the frame. She messaged me the other day and said, I think you should change your profile picture on Instagram. And I was like, low-key, like, who is this chick telling me to change my profile picture on Instagram? But I mean, we're really good friends. I valued her. And then she was just like explaining to me like your brand, Soul Wealth. It's like all about seeing people for their souls, not their achievements, not their possessions. And the picture I had on my Instagram was very fratty. And that's how she described it. And it was funny she said that because when I made it, my picture on Instagram was when I was in a frat.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, you're so right. Like this picture doesn't represent my brand at all. And so like at first it hurt. Like I didn't tell her. Like at first I was like, dang, like why? But almost every time I'm now in a place where my friends will make corrections like that. And even Sam will tell me little things about content and stuff. But your friends are never going to do that if you're offended the first time they try to correct you. So you have to like have that knowledge, like even when it hurts, you have to have that discipline and be like, all right, let me look at this over and over and over again. Sorry, there was a bug but it flew away. Yeah, so that's like something, being someone who not only is like okay with criticism, but like embraces your friends when they do it, so that you're creating however much you embrace criticism when people give it to you, you're like setting yourself up to like have a machine that is like making you the best version of yourself.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. And if you aren't going to accept your friends' criticism, who else is going to criticize you? The way I view it is your friends are on your team.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, this isn't completely true, but if you view it as it's us against the world, you just want to build your friends up because you're on the same team.
Yeah.
Like, you building up your friend, I say building up, but some people say criticizing or whatever. Yeah. I'd tell my friend, people say, oh, you have something in your teeth. That's just really an analogy for like they have a problem, they have something they need to fix. So I'll point those out. I'm so honest.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that me being honest with them, in return, they're honest with me. And I'm like, if someone points out a flaw that I have, very noticeable, I can't say 100% of the time, I'll get excited. Because I'll get to a point where like for instance, let's say, oh gosh.
It's okay. I'm going to switch to the jacket.
Okay.
And the volume's not in the frame. Oh. This is why I avoid using the umbrella. Here, you can just pause for a second. The jacket should be fine. Though now it's... Make sure you're still in the frame. Okay. Make sure... Let me know if the camera moves.
Okay.
Can you still see the light?
Yeah, I can still see the light. Here, let me...
I think we should hold up that umbrella. I don't want you to lose your train of thought. Yeah, let's put it like that. All right. Lots of interruptions.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. All right, so yeah, criticizing friends and friends criticizing you. I think it's super important to have a completely honest relationship with your friends, because when you do, like, you just can become together an unstoppable force.
Yeah.
And like, if you make a mistake once, you have to learn so many times, versus if you have a group of like 4 people and they're making mistakes and they're all telling each other and they're all pointing out mistakes and saying, hey, you fix this. But it's not out of a place of like, I know more than you. Odds are I've gone through that and I'm just trying to save you from the headache.
I remember Mr. Beast, who's like the biggest YouTuber of all time. He says that he like multiple times a week, he'll call YouTubers and like ask them what's working for them and like what's harmed them. And he's just always trying to learn from people's mistakes. And that's like a big buzzword now in the self-help space, is like masterminds, like creating groups of people who are gonna make you better and you make them better. I think that's really interesting.